Hi guys, in this video we're going to talk about slopes and rate of change. What is a slope? A slope represents how steep is a line that models a linear equation. A slope can be a positive value, a negative value, a zero, or an undefined slope. We can calculate the slope of a table of values that represent a linear model by using this equation. The slope is the difference in y over the difference in x, or, which means the same as the slope equals the second y value minus the first y value divided by the second x value minus the first x value for 2 points, 2 specific points. Let's take a look at our first example and calculate the slope of the line that passes through the points listed in the table. As you can see here, we have 4 points. We have 0, 1, 2, -1, 4, -3, and 6, -5. I can calculate the slope of these points by finding the difference in the y divided by the difference in the x. I can choose any 2 points in this table. It doesn't matter which 2. And I can find the difference between the y values first. -1 minus 1 is -2. And I have the difference in the x, which is 2, minus 0, which is 2. So the slope in this case is the difference in the y, which is -2, over the difference in the x, which is 2, and the answer is -1. Or I can also find the slope by putting down the second y value, which is -1, minus the first y value, which is 1, over the second x value, which is 2, minus the first x value, which is 0. I'm going to end up with the same thing, -2 over 2, which is -1. Now, if we have a line represented by a graph, we can calculate the slope of the graph by finding the rise divided by the run. Okay, let's look at this example and calculate the slope of a line represented in a graph. So in this case, to start calculating the slope, I have to choose 2 nice points on the line to work with. I'm going to choose this bottom point and this top point. And to be able to calculate the slope, I have to calculate the rise and divide that value by the run. Now, the rise is the number of points that you need to take to reach to the other point. And in this case, I'm going to have to go up 1 unit. That means +1 to get to my second point. And then after that, I'm going to have to move 3 units to the left. And left can be represented by a negative, so -3 to move or to get to my second point. So the rise in this case is the number of points that you have to take up or down, and in this situation it was up. That's why it was a +1 over the number of units that you need to take left or right to get to your second point, which is in this situation, I had to take 3 units to the left, which means -3. So the final slope is m equals 1 over -3. Slopes in word problems are average rate of change. The average rate of change is the difference between 2 values of the dependent variable divided by the difference between 2 values of the independent variable. So every time you see the word slope in word problems, that means the average rate of change. And since the slope and the average rate of change is the same, that means when I say the difference between 2 values of the dependent variable, that means the difference in the y. and divide that by the difference between two values of the independent variable. That means the difference in the x. So the independent variable is x, the dependent variable is y. But what is the independent variable? The independent variable is a variable that is not affected by the change in another variable, and it's subject to manipulate. The dependent variable, on the other hand, is the variable that is affected by the change in the independent variable. So the independent variable is x, and the dependent variable is y, and the value of y is affected by the value of x. Let's take a look at this word problem. We have Anna is traveling to her parents' house. After 1.5 hours of driving, Anna is 224 miles away from her parents' house and gets there 5 hours after that. Calculate the average rate of change and describe what it means in the context of the problem. So in this problem, we have to find the average rate of change. And we said that the average rate of change is the same as the slope. And the slope is the difference in the y over the difference in x. And to be able to identify the x and y, I have to think about the variables in the problem. We have hours or time, and we have distance in miles. And we know that the distance depends on time or the number of hours that Anna's traveling. So in this case, time in hours is going to be the independent variable. And then distance in miles is going to be the dependent variable. That means that time is x and y is distance. So to organize the information that I have in this problem, I'm gonna make a table of values. And in this table of value, I'm gonna indicate the time with x and the distance with y. So after reading this problem, we can see that after 1.5 hours of driving, Anna was 224 miles. And this is what I'm going to put in the table. 1.5, and the distance is 224. And after that, it says after 5 hours, she gets to her parents' house, which means that after 5 hours, the distance between her and her parents' house is 0. So to find the slope, I'm going to have to find the difference in the y, which is 0 minus 224. And in this case, it's 200 negative 224. And the difference in the x, which is 5 minus 1 at 1.5, which is 3.5. So now the slope is going to be negative 224 divided by 3.5. And the answer is negative 64 miles per hour. So in this story, this means that Anna's distance, since we have a negative value, that means the distance decreases um, 64 miles every hour. Every hour. And this is what the slope means in the context of the story, that Anna's distance decreases 64 miles every hour.